Hello and welcome to the panel, where we take a look at graphic novels and talk about their story, art, and everything in between. We all love crossovers, right? It's your chance to see your favorite characters possibly duke it out in a whole new series that they're not in normally. But what if the comic book world and the real world crossed over while in the middle of an endgame's epic battle? Well, we're about to find out on this episode of the panel. I'm your host, Anna Mia, and joining me today we have my self-dubbed queen of Free Comic Book Day, Ashton.
Hey, howdy, hey. I accept. If I've been promoted to queen, no argument.
I feel you should be promoted. And then also we have producer extraordinaire Johnny Rose.
To steal Ashton's catchphrase, hey, howdy, hey.
How dare you?
And actually, hopefully joining us soon will be Natasha, a.k.a. Cannondale X. She is having a couple of technical difficulties, so we're hoping that she can join us momentarily to talk about crossover.
All right. Yeah, because she really needs to join in on this, because I got to hear what she has to say, because we just watched Ashton read the last bit of it, and let me tell you, it was great. Her faces. We're not going to say anything about it because y'all need to read it first. But
it was wild. Like, I got in the meeting or whatever for this on the call, and I was like, yeah, I didn't finish the last few pages of this. And they were like, are you crazy? Like, so I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'll just read through it really quick. And I got to the last page. Like, I don't even have words for it. Like, just the reveal was crazy, and it was one of those reveals that I didn't see it coming at all, but once you know what it is, then you can look back through and see the trail of breadcrumbs that was left for it. Crazy.
I mean, this literally happened not even 5 minutes ago, so this is still fresh in Ashton's mind.
Yeah.
It was like watching a kid open a Christmas present, the expression on your face was the best gift ever.
Oh.
Christmas came early.
It did. Damn. That's sort of doozy.
Now, going into this, I had no idea what this was about. I figured crossovers, okay, a little bit about, different mixes. Well, Johnny, what were you thinking when you decided on this one?
Well, I've actually read this before, so it's one of the reasons why I was kind of gravitating towards this. First of all, I picked it up because I really like Donny Cates' writing and his stories. I'm a big fan of Thanos Wins and the Cosmic Ghost Rider stories, so I was big into that. I knew it had to deal, obviously, with a crossover. I didn't really know the extent of how much that was going to play into the story arc, but once I picked it up and started reading it, I was like, wow, this is it's really a love letter to comics, and not only just comics, but the history of comics. So it really touched on me because as a reader of comics in like the mid to late 90s, it really hit the nostalgia factor for me. So I love the book. I'm excited to talk about it on this episode of the panel. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, before we get into it, because there's so much that we need to get into, I want to tell everyone just a little bit about the plot. So, on January 11th, 2017, a futuristic city filled with superheroes and villains from every company, appear on top of Denver, Colorado, in the middle of a giant crossover event style battle. This causes chaos and death, and eventually one of the superheroes blocks the city with a giant dome, shutting them off from the rest of the world. But now we have a team going back to investigate and find out what happened and how did this happen. So now let's go ahead and get into the story. Donny Cates is an American comic book writer known for his groundbreaking work on Marvel Comics' Thanos, Venom, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Thor, as well as the Marvel Comics events Absolute Carnage and King in Black. He's also known for his various original series, including Redneck, Baby Teeth, and Crossover. All right. I just had to get us into this because, like, we needed to do this while it's fresh on Ashton's mind. All right. So going over the whole thing, what did you think about this take on just crossovers in general? We're going to start with you, Johnny, because you did this.
Oh yeah, this is my fault. I loved it because I think you said earlier on in the intro that like crossovers are a big, huge event in comics. It's like it's something that's really meant to kind of like bolster sales in the industry. It gets people who like reading comics that may not have, might not usually read comics. So it's a time-honored tradition in comic books. I love this take on it because it kind of pays homage to that, but then at the same time doesn't take itself too seriously. While it does tend to focus a lot mainly on the Image characters, the library of comic book characters in the Image Comics world, there are nods to other big events that have happened throughout like the history of comics. So I think that the way that they did it is really, really fun, really clever, really inventive. And again, it doesn't take itself too seriously. So it really is an entertaining read.
Yeah, I love how there's nods to like Captain America and the broken shield, but they've done it in a way where like it's the shield, but it's not the shield, so they don't get sued.
Mm-hmm. I thought so about like Batman in jail. I was like, that's Batman, but like not Batman. I get it.
What about you, Ashton? What did you think?
I loved it. Going into it, I didn't know much about it. The most I'd heard about it really was from Troy, who had mentioned that it was comic book written by comic nerds for comic nerds. So I think I went into it a little bit too idealistic, I have to say. My thought was like, it'll be like the superheroes show up and we're like excited to have superheroes because I would love to have superheroes around. Like, let's get them here. And then they show up and that's not at all what happens. The government does what the government does and it just becomes melee and bloodshed. So it was always a twist from the get-go for me, at least from what I had anticipated. But I thought it was really enjoyable. And I think the thing it does really well is you can read it. And if you come into references that you don't know, like I'm not too familiar with the paybacks, I don't feel like that took anything away from the story, though. You still get kind of like the shock value of it being a crossover without feeling like there's any barrier to entry. And I think that's really great because the comics industry in general kind of struggles with barrier to entry. So I think Donny Cates did a great job of pretty much eliminating that altogether.
Well said. Well said. And look, we've got Natasha.
Hi.
Hey, we can hear her.
Okay?
Yes.
Great. We're on my phone.
You look fabulous.
That's great.
I give up. I guess I don't need this, do I?
Nope.
My hair looks terrible though, so it's like a headband.
No, you look
do
fabulous.
that.
Actually, that's really
There.
cute.
There.
All right, let's jump on in here. Natasha, what did you think going into reading Crossover?
So I didn't know anything about it other than I read the synopsis a little bit, kind of like touching back on, all these other comics that have crossovers and things like that. And that drew me in, especially just from like the nerd perspective of comics and then also TV. Like I was diehard into Green Arrow, and every time they had, Crisis Earth or any of the kind of crossover stuff. So I thought it was gonna be something like that. Totally not. I love I love the little runbacks to things, or like the narrator is hilarious. Like the way he
I
kind of
love the
bounces around in the
narrator.
story and then is like, oh, never mind about that. Let's take you back over here. Or, just it's the storytelling is really great from the narrators, there it is, perspective, and the fact that it's definitely not the crossover you're thinking it's going to be. It's, I think, kind of cooler. Like it's not predictable. It's not, it's got tidbits and pieces of your comics that you read that have all of these kind of crisis scenarios, but definitely a lot darker, I think, but not in like the kind of stories we read for Halloween kind of darker, but definitely a little more realistic approach. I feel like what if this really did happen in our reality kind of thing, and that's really cool. So I definitely I dug it for sure.
Yeah, and going into that whole like darker thing, I wanted to get y'all's opinion of kind of the government response, like the human response to this giant dome going around Denver. Denver's pretty much gone. Like there's superheroes all of a sudden. Like what were your thoughts on how the government handled that? And I'm going to start with Ashton because you mentioned a little bit.
Disappointed, but not surprised. Like Natasha said it perfectly. It is a very human response. Like when so there's two things going on here. One, something you know nothing about, and two, something that is clearly more powerful than you. So your immediate response is to get defensive. And so the government has done that here times like 1,000, given the scale of the scenario. So it definitely takes like a darker turn. And honestly, I would maybe argue with Natasha that in some places, this does take a turn dark enough that it competes with some of our Halloween reads.
That's fair.
Like the part where they cut to Father Lowe and he's talking to his superhero that he has captive, that he's like repeatedly beating. Like that's crazy dark. That's wildly uncalled for. So there's very much like a search and destroy aspect to the response here that I think is unfortunately probably pretty realistic.
Speaking of, like, if I could touch on that, I don't know if anyone picked up this, but I actually don't know who that character was. I didn't know if that was supposed to be an existing comic book character. And forgive my ignorance, but I'm like, who is this? Because this was like a full splash page. Like I felt like this should have been a big reveal. Like this is this character. I'm like, oh my god, we're supposed to know who this is. But
the suit is familiar to me, but also I think in the aspect of it, it looks like an OG kind of superhero. Like it's not tights, they're pants. They're kind of loafy kind of boots. They're, it's more of a comfortable material kind of costume. So for me, that looks like it's, it reminds me of some of the superheroes from like the 60s and stuff like that kind of thing. So maybe we'll find out.
it could be. If there's anyone in the chat, like, let us know if you know who that is supposed to be.
Yeah, please.
That's what I was going to say. Someone's got to know, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of which, we have some people watching. We have Tommy Sharp saying hello.
Hi, Tommy.
06 Mercury, awesome, great crew. Thank you. And Patrick McFadden getting classic Spawn vibes here. Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And I'm going to touch on that
Love me
a little
some
bit.
Spawn.
I'm going to touch on that a little bit later when it comes to the art.
Oh, okay.
Wait
Well,
for it.
while we get into that, let's go ahead and keep it going. Natasha, how did you feel about the human reaction to these superheroes showing up?
Unfortunately, accurate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of human reaction, like what's the quote? A person is smart, but people are dumb.
Mhm.
Oof.
I feel like that's where this comes in, because as a collective, all this stuff is suddenly happening in Denver, and there's just all these people, and so the massive response is to just that's different than me. I don't know what's going on. Let me just blow it up. Let me get rid of it. Let me, exactly, like the extreme side of things happens, and because it's fear, it's all just fear based, and not understanding and not taking the time to understand, and just you have one guy in the mob yelling, let's get rid of him, and then the whole mob is like, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea, because the whole
Mob
overwhelming
mentality.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mob mentality, exactly. So I feel like this was a very realistic approach to what would happen if suddenly there was a whole bunch of superheroes, because unless you're part of like the small collective of us comic nerds who understand and might see or might have a different perspective, like Elle, who works in a comic shop, who gets it. I mean, even though we find out other stuff later, but like I feel like that would be all of us, like in this group right now, that would be all of us going like, hey, you know, that's just a little girl. Like, hey, like, let's take a second here. Like, instead of just throwing her to the wolves, let's see what's going on first. Let's assess the situation before setting the whole place on fire. Literally.
Yeah. It
So,
really is like touches on that kind of fear of the unknown,
mhm,
like type of
For
paranoia.
sure.
In fact, like one of the things that you see at the very beginning, like the opening phrase, is from Frederick Wortham's Seduction of the Innocent, which had to do with how comic books were like corrupting the youth and contributing to juvenile delinquency. And it says like the world of the comic book is the world of the strong, the ruthless, the bluffer, the shrewd deceiver, the torturer, and the thief. In comic books, life is worth nothing. There is no dignity of a human being. And even later on, Otto at the comic shop is wearing a shirt that
mhm,
says Wortham was right. So it really sets the tone early on for people who are kind of fearing what comics are, and just like they don't know what's going on here. They're afraid for like their way of life, so they're just going to do whatever they
mhm,
can to protect their way of life. So at any cost, and that's why Ryan ends up burning down the comic shop and sets everything in motion. But yeah, I mean, to reflect what Ashton and Natasha said, it's like it's unfortunately is a reflection of modern day society, or you just that is what would happen if this an event like this actually happened in the real world.
mhm,
Yeah,
No,
like
totally
Elle
true.
says that whole bit about like we read comics about being the good guys, and then when we get the chance to be the good guy,
Mm-hmm.
like we don't rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
mhm,
Hmm. My main thing was I was not expecting the whole like religious aspect of it. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, but that
mm,
just kind of like I was getting like the mist from Stephen King, where all of a sudden you have like the crazy religious
mhm.
woman that you're stuck there with, and it's just like, what's going on? What were your thoughts on like the religious aspect? I saw Ashton having a reaction to that.
Yeah, it's very much what Natasha said about like a mob mentality. They are a very vocal group, so they're pretty easy to mobilize, and that was taken advantage of here, especially because, like Johnny said, I mean, all of these things are holding hands. Like it's tied back to that fear factor, and looking for some sort of like savior or absolution in a circumstance that is completely out of your control. And like a lot of times there seems to be some antithesis between religion and like right and wrong. And I think Donny Cates does a really great job of treading that line here, because it's a very fine line. But I think he does a good job of touching on how quickly religious groups are to pass judgment, even if that judgment maybe isn't that sound in certain cases.
And we're not saying like all religious groups, but
No,
there
Yeah.
has been a
Yeah, no,
history.
that's why I
Yeah.
tried to keep it
Disclaimer,
umbrella.
disclaimer,
Yeah. Disclaimer there.
disclaimer.
What about you,
Thanks,
Johnny?
I mean, the same thing. It's like, and I'm not to really like stick it to religious groups or whatever, but I mean, there are like prejudice has existed all throughout, society. So, it could be racial, it could be religious, it could be like any kind of number of things. So I think that this is just kind of used as an example, it's just, I mean, it's unfortunately happened, but he's using that to make a point, and I think that he's getting the point across.
Yeah, very true, very true. So now I want to kind of go into Ella a little bit, our main character. I love that she is like a cosplayer. She's one of us. Like, is that something that like drew you more into the character? Did you see yourself kind of as Ella as you were reading this? Anyone? Natasha.
I did, certainly. And then just like you could see her love of the people around her, and then also just like trying to push through. It's, sometimes when we cosplay, it's not just, hey, we're dressing up as this fun character. It's kind of ties into the comics itself of being this character as an escapism. So maybe all of this catastrophe that's happening around her, like she's cosplaying to kind of disassociate a little bit and get through her day to day, and to be able to find the answers that she's looking for, and and also just keep functioning.
And also create like a sense of belonging. Like this shot right here, just kind of like, look at all the smiles.
Look how packed that is.
I know.
Right?
Look at how happy that is. The people like to be in a comic shop. This is what we would like any comic shop to be. Like going there, like all kinds of smiles, just like, have you been reading this story? What do you think about this? So it's definitely like giving her like a sense of belonging that she's missing from having been like dislocated out of her environment, like where she's like looking for her parents and whatnot. So
way to get around that spoiler.
My big thing was I was surprised she's like the staying in cosplay. That is dedication.
Yeah.
To her craft. She's dedicated to her
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very, very true. Okay. So there's a lot of characters that get brought in. I feel like a lot of them in this one were kind of minor characters that we didn't know, but I kind of looked at the Wikipedia and I got some spoilers. So I just wanted to see what would be your guys' dream character crossover.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Oh God, I'm gonna panic.
God, Mia.
I'm sorry.
I'll go right off the bat.
For this world, for this storyline?
For anything.
Well, it's always going to be Spawn for me.
It's always going to be Spawn.
Well, Spawn and who though? Spawn in what world? Or does someone go to the Spawn?
Well, I mean,
universe.
It's already kind of been done. Like
Spawn Batman.
Yeah. So predictable. No, I think I kind of would like to see Spawn and the Guardians. Because I would like, I don't know, I just would really like to see Spawn's reaction to Peter Quill's smartassery. Like, I feel like that would, you could have like a few panels of just that hilarity happening, and that would make the book for me. Like I think that would be, and then just seeing how he'd have to work with Rocket, who's also a smart ass, but he's smart and he's clever, like, I don't know. I feel like that would be the Guardians of the Galaxy and Spawn. That would be it for me. That'd be really cool. It'd be weird.
I want to put it to the chat. If there's anyone watching the chat, that like, let us know what your favorite or what your like dream crossover would be. So let us know, and we'll try and see if we can get that on the air.
The dream I didn't know I had.
An idea? Who's got the next idea?
I got this.
All right, Danny.
I would like to see My Little Pony and whatever the bloodiest comic is that you could think of.
Okay, that was wildly out of pocket.
Or just something so weird, because like My Little Pony is like so sweet and saccharine and like, family friendly. I just want to see that like dropped into somewhere, like maybe My Little Pony and Spawn. Like what happens with My Little Pony meets up with like the Violator from Spawn. They go to like the 7th layer of hell or something like that. I don't know. Or even maybe something a little bit more family friendly. What My Little Pony and like Masters of the Universe?
I feel like My Little Pony and Five Nights at Freddy's would be a fun weird vibe.
Oh, yeah, that would be a really good one. Yeah,
In all seriousness, though, like this is not exactly a crossover, but a mashing of ideas. And we've talked about this before on Previous World Weekly when we were doing that show. Is McDonald's and Mad Max.
Oh hell yeah!
Yes, we are still hoping to make this happen because we came up with this whole story arc of where it was a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and it's like of the McDonald's land like play sets and playgrounds. It was just like, Grimace like climbing statues just like out in the middle of like a wasteland, and they're searching the barren wastelands for like what's left of a McFlurry, stuff like that. The Hamburglar is acting as the Robin Hood, trying to find food to get to the people who are starving. We have this whole backstory in our mind that we want this to make this happen. So you heard it here first. Don't steal your ideas.
I just feel like
evil chicken nugget.
Yep.
I just picture one of the Fry guys doing the whole like witness me thing.
With ketchup.
Or McDonald as in Morton Joe.
Oh, dang. All right, what about you, Ashton? Miss Nuggets.
I think I would want Avatar: The Last Airbender and Star Wars. Because I feel like the Force and bending are kind of simpatico in some way.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hokey religions and ancient weapons in both of those things.
That's actually really good.
I'd wonder how tall Aang would be next to Yoda.
Oh, that's true. How tall is a 12-year-old and a fully grown Yoda?
Yeah. Well, I always felt like he was smaller than most 12-year-olds. So like,
right.
Yeah.
Yoda's only like.
I know that's where my mind went. I'm so sorry. I feel like
no,
killed the vibe.
that's actually a really good question. Now my like choices feel so like pedestrian because I was Cassie from Hackslash, and going into the world of There's Something Killing the Children.
Ooh.
Like that team up would be so good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like
that one.
Everything would die.
Yes.
Hopefully.
See, mine's more of a collaborative thing rather than Johnny's like, let's throw ponies into like death.
He's gonna come after you.
But see, this is the thing. This is part of the reason why I like crossovers, especially a lot of the things that Donny Cates has worked on, because some of the stuff that he's done is just like he spins a wheel of characters and then puts everything together. It's just like, well, we're gonna have a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and let's see how it works. And it does. I mean, like, look at Cosmic Ghost Rider. That's like Ghost Rider and Frank Castle and a whole bunch. And like, that book Thanos Wins is got like, the Cosmic Ghost Rider book has all kinds of crazy combinations. So like that's some of the most fun stuff in my mind is like seeing when you put things together. Like there was the Infinity Warps storyline that Marvel did a couple years back, where it's like they mixed Doctor Strange and Captain America to be the it was a Soldier Supreme instead of like Sorcerer Supreme, and it was like Spider-Man and Moon Knight. So I love that kind of stuff. But the weirder it gets, it's like the stuff that I like love, because I just like to see what kind of stuff are they going to create out of that.
Randomly, I found Elf Quest and Star Trek. That one's probably like my weirdest one I've ever seen. I mean, I guess Spock and them have the same ears, so
that's fair.
All right. Now that we've kind of dug into the story, let's go ahead and start adding some of the art into it. Jeff Shaw received his BFA from the University of New Mexico and his MFA from Savannah College of Arts and Design. His creator-owned comic works include God Country and Crossover, and he's currently a Marvel Comics cover artist, as well as drawing series featuring Wolverine and Ghost Rider. So, what did you all think about the art in relation to the story, especially like the characters? And I'm hoping someone's going to come.
I'll start. I love the art. I love the art. One of the things I love about it is, like I said earlier, this whole story is a love letter to comics and comics history. I love the use of, and it's maybe a little bit geeky, but I love the use of like halftone shading with the books, with the characters, in terms of like how the comics used to be printed back in the day. Like here, like all the dots and everything like that. And I love the differentiation of the the characters who are quote unquote from the real world and versus the comic book world. So it's easily to tell who's who. Well, for the most part, until like the big reveal at the end. But it's I think that's really clever and way to like use the technique of telling who's who. I particularly like this and the way it's utilized it to establish a sense of depth, because the closer a character is to the quote unquote camera, to like where the viewer is watching this or reading the story from, the bigger the dots become. So for instance, in this shot where the Dr. Black transports everyone into the mystical minivan or whatever you want to call it,
Right.
like as he's closer to the camera or the panel, his dots are bigger. But if you like zoom in really close, like the stuff in the background or on the floor is all also halftone dots as well, but they're much smaller. So I really like that technique to establish a bit of depth within those comic characters. And I think that's a technique that was used really effectively.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
I
That's really
agree.
cool.
Yeah.
I agree. That's totally what I was going to pinpoint.
Yeah, the halftone coloring is easily like the most successful thing about the art here. I think that's where it really shines, because all three of us were going to say that, because I was going to say it too. Like, all three of us
Sorry.
thing. No, I think that's a testament to how much it adds to the story.
Mm-hmm.
No, it really does, because it kind of like brings both the worlds together, right? Like, and then just the colors. The colors are really, you've got these like brighter colors that you wouldn't see not normally happening. Now, was there like a panel that really like the imagery got to you? Like, I'll start with mine. Like, mine was, I love the creative usage of like the panels on this spread, like with all the like news reports of everything that's going on when it first starts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was just like, oh, you have like all these different like cell phone videos and all these kind of like different videos that people are putting in. And I just love the creative usage of that. It really did feel kind of like a big screen TV with like different panels going on.
Mine is Madman with Valifax when they bust out of the museum and they're right at like the force field, and he's got like everyone behind him standing up on the rubble. Because like as soon as I saw that, I got that like that feeling, like when you read a comic book and you get just like that moment that's like it's time to go kick butt. Like that got a super emotional reaction out of me.
What about you, Natasha?
Mine was the same as yours. That one,
Really?
like, really, yeah, absolutely. When I was trying to make sure I remembered as I was reading the rest of the book, this is awesome. Like the way it just, clearly there's some global event going on. So everyone's got their phone, everyone's recording, you've got TVs going on, you got all this stuff. And it's that I feel like brought in more of that human actual reaction happening. You've got like everybody, you'd see a car accident and people, instead of going to help, they're recording it instead.
Mhm.
Like that's the reality that is right now, even like, and I feel like that the way they did that on the 2 pages spread out, and you just, it almost makes it overwhelming, but in like a good way, and like really helping you understand the depths of what's going on right now or at the time.
Yeah, very true. So one of the things I wanted to also ask you all is when it comes down to the character design, was there like anything in particular you really noticed or liked? Like mine, I loved Otto. I don't know why, he just kind of felt like old burner man from like that 70s show, the stoner guy that worked at the photo shop. I don't know why he reminded me of him, and that's all I could remember. I just thought of him.
That's really funny.
But did y'all have like a character design or anything about like the way that the characters look that really like kind of drew you in?
I really liked Ryan because I thought he physically, like the way he looked, very much matched his internal conflict that he had going on. So he's got like the tie and like the sweater over the button down and everything. Like he's supposed to be this really proper person, and that's what his dad wants and expects of him. And yet at the same time, like the shirt's untucked at the bottom and his hair is messed up and he's like consistently got a black eye, and like he's just like all of the signs of struggle are present in his physical appearance.
Oh, I like that one. Johnny, do you have anyone?
Notes.
No, I don't know if it's a specific character, but there is one section that I kind of like that it made me think of comic book history. There was a section where they're talking about the Amalgam project, which Amalgam Comics was, gosh, this was like back during the 90s, I think, some point when DC and Marvel were kind of playing nicely at one point, and they decided, well, let's kind of like, mash our characters together. And they had Amalgam Comics, which basically mixed up like Batman and Wolverine and Spider-Man and Superboy and all that. So this like section of here where it's like different superheroes and villains and everything kind of like sewn together really resonated with me for that, because it kind of reminded me of like the joy of reading those comics back in the 90s. One other thing I liked, and this is the part where the art kind of stood out for me, and also this is probably the biggest smile I got out of reading this book, was these couple of panels here where it's talking about like all the superheroes that are kind of been imprisoned. And it was this one right here where you can obviously see that that's Spawn coming out of the prison cell. Fun fact, and I don't know if Natasha, I see a smile on your face that you might know. I think you know where I'm going with this, is that this panel right here reminded me directly of Spawn number 10 from 1993, where where all of these superheroes are in prison and like that. And
Nailed it.
And the funny thing about this is that particular issue, the story of that is titled Crossing Over. So I read that, and then I just like that just brought a huge smile to my face. I love that, and in fact, so much that like Donny Cates even put that into the book at the beginning, right underneath that Frederick Wortham quote, where it's Todd McFarlane says, "Well, kids love chains."
Yeah.
So that was my favorite part of the art in this book.
Oh, I love that. That was really cool. Okay, my mind is officially blown. But then again, the whole comic blew my mind. Let's go into kind of everyone's final thoughts on this. Like, what were your final thoughts? What would you just say to someone that's thinking of picking this up? And I'm going to pick on Natasha first.
Hold on. We have to do
this.
Oh,
no, wait, Johnny's got...
I got the thing. There we go.
All right, let's pick on Natasha first, though. Maybe that gives a couple of seconds to think.
Okay, so first off, Johnny totally nailed it. That was going to be one of my character point out things. And then I was going to talk about Elle, but this comic is great. If you love comics in any aspect, superhero or not, you're going to enjoy this. It has a great story. It has comedy to it, even in the dark parts. Like I said before, the narrator part is just hilarious. I mean, there's even a part, I remember one of the boxes where even he touches back on this group and how this comic was canceled, but you can check it out at your local comic shop. And I was like, I felt like I heard Johnny's voice when I was reading that part. And it's just, it's a beautiful book. The art is gorgeous. The layout is easy to read. The story itself is like, it has a lot of shock and awe in the best way possible. And even right to the end, it's really good. I totally enjoyed it. And if you love comics, I think you will love this too.
I like that one. All right. What about you, Johnny?
I got basically mirror everything that Natasha says. Like, again, like I said earlier, this is a comic that is a love letter to comics and comic history and just comic books in general. Again, there's not a huge barrier to entry, as Ashton said. Like, I mean, there are definite references to past comic books. And like Natasha just said, like the part about the paybacks, like that, I think it was who said it about the paybacks. Was that you, Natasha?
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, so like the part where like, you know, this was sold by a dark horse and it didn't sell very well, but it's like you don't need to know that to be able to enjoy the story. I mean, you can definitely go and read these stories, and in fact, that's what I would hope that this comic would do for people who read it. In fact, the Sword of Swords or the King of Swords, Valifax, like I know that's from Donny Cates's other story, God Country, which unfortunately I haven't read, but I have wanted to read for a while. But this just reminded me about that. I'm like, oh, I need to stop by my local comic shop and pick that up. So
See,
this
Johnny's voice.
what?
I said, see, Johnny's voice.
Yeah,
Gotta stop at your local comic shop.
sorry. No, but yeah, I mean, this is like a book that makes you like appreciate comics and makes you like want to read more. Like just seeing this, it's like, it's what is this story? I need to know more about this. Like, where can I find it? Oh, at your friendly local comic shop. That's the voice. But yeah, I love this. I can't wait to actually pick up the second one, because there's a lot of questions I have unanswered. Like, I feel like I want to know more about Ava's backstory. I feel like in this story, she's kind of just as, I guess, I don't know if I hesitate to use the word MacGuffin, but like the plot device for moving the plot forward of like how it needs to get, how the group needs to get from point A to point B. But I would like to know more about Ava. Like, why is she there? Like, is there a reason that she has these powers, or is it she just going to? Is her story going to be like a flash in the pan, and it's really just to get you to focus more on Ellipses? So that's one of the questions I have. But I am looking forward to picking up the next issue or next trade paperback.
And where would we find that?
At your friendly local comic shop.
Ashton, anything to add?
Yeah, totally. I think the thing I just want to reiterate that we touched on, earlier in the show is, yes, this is incredibly entertaining. Yes, this is a love letter to comic book fans, but at the same time, it is also a commentary about our society and who gets to have power and what does that mean, and how do you spread power around? Can you, should you, all of those things. And so I think while it is incredibly entertaining, I think Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw are also really encouraging their readers to dig more into what is being said here about how we treat one another, especially how we treat one another when those people are different from us. And they have different goals for themselves than maybe we do for them or for ourselves. So I think, yes, I 100% urge you to read it. You should read it, but I think you should read it with an eye for entertainment and also an eye for the commentary here, because I think there's a lot of value in that, especially if you take the time to read Donny Cates' preface about what inspired this book and his multiple brushes with death. I think that gives it a really important undertone.
Yeah, because he had a car accident, and I think, what was it? He lost his memory for about 6 months. But I think he's doing better now, so yay. But okay, like, let me just tell you guys that this is my reminder. I'm not as good as Johnny is at it. My reminder for you to pick up Crossover at your friendly local comic shop. And to find a comic shop near you, just simply head on over to comicshoplocator.com. All right, and before we head out of here, can they give our guests like a little bit of time to plug anything they've got going on? What about you, Natasha? What do you got coming up?
I've got coming up December 14th and 15th. I will be in Ocean City, Maryland at Ocean City Comic Con. I will be a guest there, so I'll have a table. I'll actually have some Canon LX merch, some great t-shirts, my roller derby t-shirts that you can buy, but also I will be there hosting the wonderful cosplay contest, which is both days. There's, I think, adult and group on Saturday and then kids on Sunday. It's a super, super fun convention. It's actually really fun to be in Ocean City during the winter time. It's like, it's just beautiful to be at the beach anytime, let's be honest. But it's a really, really great Comic Con. I love doing it. This is my third year doing it. And the people that run it are just fantastic. But check it out, oceancitycomiccon.com. And to find out anything that I'm doing, or to get caught up on DST Unboxed or previews, Toy Chest, What's a Comic Shops, any of that, you can go to canondollx.com. It links to all of my playlists, all of the things. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can find me there and all the social medias. Canon Doll X, it's pretty easy. I'm the only one, so you can just Google it, and I'm the only one you'll find.
That makes it much easier.
Thank God. Yeah.
What about you, Johnny?
You'll find me at my house this Thanksgiving stuffing my face with turkey and pumpkin pie.
That sounds great.
That sounds amazing. No, I'm just going to continue to keep making video content for Previews World Free Comic Book Day. Ashton and I just made videos that got to announce the Free Comic Book Day comics that are coming out for 2025. So I'm excited about that. Actually, you'll find me at Free Comic Book Day on Saturday. Was it May 3rd, Ashton? I believe. May 3rd. Yes, thank you.
Best day of the year.
I should know that by now. It's not like I made a video about that a couple of weeks ago. But no, I'm looking forward to just catching up on this. So you'll find me also sitting down reading some comics.
All right. And then Ashton, I kind of kept you for last because I know you've got the big comic news. So tell us what's going on, Queen of Free Comic Book Day.
You got it. Johnny kind of alluded to this. We just announced the full lineup of Free Comic Book Day books that will be at local comic shops on May 3rd for Free Comic Book Day. It's 46 books this year. There's so many good ones in there. Like, seriously, like, have to emphasize there is something for every fan in this lineup. If you missed it, you want to see it again, you want more information, whatever. It is everywhere. Free Comic Book Day, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or freecomicbookday.com. Like, you will find it because I am adamantly like forcing people to look at this list because it's that good.
Nice.
Ashton's
All right,
about
I'm
ready
excited
to.
for it.
Ashton's ready to drag people kicking and screaming to Free Comic Book Day. That's how,
Look, I'll
that's
do
how
it.
passionate she
I
is
don't
about it.
understand why. It's the best day of the year.
And actually, before y'all leave, I'm excited to see what's coming out. But before y'all leave, I did want to ask what your suggested reading is for the viewers. I want to give them something that they should kind of look for if they like this. Let's start with Johnny.
So I did mention this a little bit earlier. Anything really like Donny Cates, I particularly like Thanos Wins. This story is really, really good. In fact, we actually did an episode of the panel on this book, so go check that out as well. The Cosmic Ghost Rider story arc or book is also really good. That follows Thanos Wins. And one of the things I want to do, and again, I said this earlier, is pick up God Country because that's also by Donny Cates. And I have not read that yet, but that's one of the reasons, one of the stories I'm going to get to have a full understanding of like all the stuff that's going on in crossover. So that's my suggested reading.
Oh, that's actually a smart idea. All right. What about you, Natasha?
Well, last time I stole Johnny's. This time Johnny stole mine.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say Cosmic Ghost Rider too, because that one like blew me out of the water. I like, when we read the Thanos Wins and Frank Castle and all that, like the Silver Surfer, all these characters I didn't expect to showed up, and Cosmic Ghost Rider goes with that same, like what, who, huh? Like I love that. So I second the motion for those picks.
And also, Thanos Wins not only Donny Cates, but also Jeff Shaw. So he did the art on that as well. So it's a double good reason to pick that up as well. All
right, and Ashton?
I'm going for Archie versus Predator because it is just like a It's totally just like the most random things you can think of, and you're like, they're gonna hang out together. So it's weird.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm weird for putting My Little Pony and like Spawn together. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. See how it is.
I'm in favor of I love a good nonsense crossover.
Oh, I love it.
No, those are some great suggestions. Thank y'all for joining me for the show.
I just want to check the social media or the chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going too fast today.
I remember my friends speculating hard that they were going to bring in superheroes from Marvel and DC. There are nods to those because they do talk about not directly mentioning Watchmen, but they do talk about a big event where there was a super squid that attacked a city.
Yeah.
And they actually have that. There are mentions of like other there's one panel where Cosmic or the outline of Cosmic Ghost Rider or what looks like Cosmic Ghost Rider is on the wall in the background. And so let me see if I can actually find that. I think this is it right here, that bottom panel on the wall.
Yeah.
So there's nods to it. There's even like a mention or the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is in here at one point as well.
Yeah, I saw him.
So let's see what else we have. Collector's Insane, Silver Surfer Black also. Yes, also by Donny Cates. So and agreeing that Thanos Wins is so awesome. Yes, 100% agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you everyone for all the
Thank you, good night.
suggestions. And if anyone watching has any graphic novels that they'd like us to talk about, leave a comment below and your choice could be picked for a future episode. This is also your reminder to follow us at Previews World and Free Comic Book Day on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And finally, go have some fun, eat a lot of food, and just remember that heroes are a dime a dozen, but comic fans are priceless. See you next time. Do you have a suggestion for a graphic novel that you'd like to see discussed on the panel? Leave us a comment and your choice could be picked for a future episode.